Good evening, everyone. So today we are having class after a very long time. I hope everybody is doing good and everybody is fine. Okay. So I hope you all can see me. I am audible as well as visible. Okay. So in the other class, in our last class, we were discussing about free consent, right? We were discussing that if you are not giving your acceptance freely, if your acceptance is influenced by something, you're not giving acceptance by your heart, by your own, but you are getting influenced by something, then we say that the consent is not free. We already discussed that consent is not said to be free when it is influenced by five things. Okay, these five things are: first was coercion, undue influence, fraud, mistake, misrepresentation. If your acceptance is influenced by these five items, these five um, headings, then we'll say that your consent is not free. We already discussed coercion and undue influence. When you are using physical pressure to make the other person to make the other person forcefully enter into the contract, there you are using coercion. Okay, and when you are using mental pressure, when you are mentally torturing the other person or you are mentally pressurizing the other person to enter into your contract, then we'll say that it is, and it is also not a valid contract. Reason behind this is consent is not free. Consent is obtained by undue influence. Today we'll be studying fraud and remaining three, that is fraud, misrepresentation and mistake. Fraud is a very familiar term. I hope everybody has heard or done fraud in your daily life. Okay, so what is fraud? If we say in Hindi, fraud is dhoka. Fraud is dhoka. When you intentionally deceive the other party, when you intentionally deceive the other party, that is known as fraud. Now, for example, I purchased a lipstick. I purchased a lipstick and I purchased that lipstick to further resell that. Okay, so I went to Delhi. I purchased the lipstick from Chandni Chowk market. Okay, then I came back to Rajasthan and I sold that lipstick to Miss XYZ. Okay. While selling this lipstick was for rupees 20, I guess. Okay. The cost of lipstick was rupees 20. Now I sold this lipstick to Mrs. XYZ and I told her that this lipstick has been imported from Korea. Has been imported from Korea. And I sold that 20 rupees lipstick for rupees 200 to that person. Now here, excuse me. Now here what happens? Here I am committing fraud with the other person. Why? Because I did not purchase this lipstick from Korea. I did not purchase this lipstick from Korea. I just bought this lipstick from Delhi's Chandni Chowk market and I'm selling here. I am intentionally telling lies to the other person. That means what? I am creating fraud. When you are intentionally deceiving the other party, when you are telling something which is not true, when you are telling something which is not true and you know about the falsity, that is, you know that things are not correct here, still you are not telling the other person because you want to obviously sell your product. So here you are committing fraud with the other person. The definition of fraud is given in section 17. The definition is quite long. Why? Because the definition includes some acts, the acts which are considered as fraud. Firstly, if you say anything which is not true, and you yourself know that the things you are saying is not true, and still you are saying that to the other person to make that person enter into the contract, then this is fraud, like the example of lipstick I took. Okay. And second act is the active concealment of a fact. Okay, we are reading from the book on from your modules itself. It's page number 41, topic 1.6.10, 1.6.10, section 17, fraud. Okay, we are discussing the definition of fraud. Fraud means and includes any of the following acts committed by a party to a contract. Means what? If you do, right now we'll be discussing some acts which are considered as fraud. If you do any of the act, then that means what? You are committing fraud with the other person. First act is the suggestion as a fact or that which is not true by one who does not believe it to be proved. Matlab, when you are saying something that is not correct and you yourself know that the thing is false, that the recommendations you are making, the statements you are making are not true, and still you are making it, then you are committing fraud with the other person, like lipstick wala example. Next is the active concealment of a fact by one having knowledge or belief of the fact. Now, what is active concealment? Concealment means hiding things. Concealment means hiding things. Like for example, when we do makeup, we use concealer, right? Concealer is used for hiding our dark spots, etc., whatever we have on our skin. So similarly here also concealing means hiding something. Now for example, I want to sell this house. Okay, the ceiling of this house is not proper. This might fall anytime. Okay, so what happens here? I just temporarily painted this wall so that if you come here and if you want to purchase this house, then also you will not come to know that there is some fault in the ceiling. Why? Because I actively hided the fault. Okay, that now this does not mean now the ceiling is strong. Okay, ceiling is not yet strong. Why? Because I have just temporarily painted it, I have not repaired it. Okay, so here also this ceiling might fall anytime, that might cause damage to somebody's life, right? So here also I am committing fraud with the other party. Why? Because I'm not stating something which is not true. Here what I am doing, I'm trying to hiding the facts. I am trying to hiding the facts. That is the things. If you come also, if you see also, if you examine also, then also you will not be able to find out that there is some fault here. That is known as active concealment. So if you are doing active concealment, then also you are you are committing fraud with the other person. Next is a promise made without intention to perform it. A promise made without intention means if you are promising somebody and then your intention is you will not perform that promise. Like for example, I told you that I will teach you today. Okay, but actually I don't want to teach you today. I just made a fake promise to you. Now you all joined here and I didn't show up. Here I am doing fraud with you. Reason behind this, I promised you that I'll come here at 6:30, I'll teach you law, but now I didn't came. Okay, if I didn't came due to some problem, that is not fraud. If that is not fraud. If I intentionally did not came here because my intention was to deceive you, my intention was to give you false statement, here I am committing fraud with you. Next is any other act fitted to deceive. If some act which is not stated here, but still there is the situation is showing such that there is some deceive, that is you are actually making the other person forcefully enter into a contract, then that is also considered as fraud. Any act and omission as the law specifically declares to be fraudulent. Any act or omission means what? If apart from the contract act, if any other act has declared something fraud, then it is fraud as per contract act also. Even if something has been missed from this definition, omission means wiped off. If something has been wiped off from this definition, if something is incomplete in this definition, then it will be up to the judges. If they find that these acts are fraudulent acts, then they might consider those acts as fraud. Okay, so basically if these 5 things happen, then you are creating fraud with the other person. Now we'll read the essential elements of fraud. Essential elements of fraud means if if you are doing fraud with somebody and these characteristics are there, then only it will be considered as fraud, yet it will not be considered as fraud. First is the fraud must have been committed by a party to a contract. The fraudulent acts that should be committed either by the party to the contract or on his behalf, his authorized agent or somebody else whom the party told to. Now, for example, if I sold this lipstick by myself to you and I told you that this lipstick I bought from Korea, that means what? I'm creating fraud. If I am telling somebody else to sell this lipstick and stating the same fact that this has been brought from Korea, then also it is considered fraud. That means what? The fraudulent act, it is not necessary that it will be done by only party to the contract. It could be done by party to the contract or by any other person on his discretion. Okay. So the fraudulent act could be done by anybody. Next is there must be an intention to deceive the other party. Whenever you are committing fraud, just remember one thing, your intention is one and only, that is you want to deceive the other party. You want to take advantage of other party by telling lies. And you yourself has the knowledge of falsity and you are telling lies because you want to enter into a contract with that person. So if you are having any other intention other than deceiving the other party, then it is not considered as fraud. Remember one thing, fraud is intentional deceit. Fraud is intentional deceit. When you knowingly are deceiving someone, when you are knowingly giving dhoka to someone, then it is considered as fraud. Next is the other party must have been actually deceived. Now the acts you are using, the fraudulent words you are using, that might have actually deceived the other party. Now for example, I told you that I am opening a company and Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is joining me on my joining me as a shareholder or as a director in my company. Now actually Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is not joining me. I'm just making these statements so that the share value of my company increases. Okay. So here I am committing fraud with you. Now if you invested in my company just because of the thought that Amitabh Bachchan is joining me, then I'm committing fraud with you. But the other person, for example, Mr. XYZ did a deep examination about my company and found that my company will procure higher profits in future. So Mr. XYZ invested just because my company will be yielding more profits in future. Here I am committing here I'm not committing any fraud with Mr. XYZ. Reason behind this is he is not influenced by the fact that Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is coming or not. He is investing because he wanted to. If he was influenced by this fact that Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is coming here, then I have been committed fraud with this person. But here he did not invested in my company because of Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, he did not get induced by my statements. Here I am not making fraud with Mr. XYZ. Why? Because he is not induced. So it is very important, the fraudulent activities you are doing must have actually induced the other party to enter into the contract. If other party is not deceived, if other party is not convinced with your statements, he anyhow entered into the contract, he did not had statements, then there you are not committing any fraud. Okay, so remember one thing, fraud is considered fraud only when your statements are actually inducing the other party, your statement are actually creating some impact on the other party, and just because of your statements that party entered into the contract, then that is fraud. Okay, but if your statements did not influence the other party, he anyhow wanted to enter into the contract, or he anyhow like he anyhow wanted to enter into a valid contract with you, then in that case you are not committing any kind of fraud with the other person. Next is the fraud must have resulted in a loss or damage. Okay, so if you want to take action on the other party, then there must be some loss or some damage. If there is no loss, if there is no damage, everything is going smoothly, then you cannot take any action on the other party and it is not considered as fraud. Okay, so fraud will be when the other party is actually deceived and there is actual loss or damage to somebody's emotions, to somebody's property, to somebody's something. Okay, then only it is considered as fraud. There must be false representation. Okay, this is also important. Whenever you are making fraud, just make sure that the representations you are making, the statements you are giving, that must be false. Okay, if you are giving true statements or if you are giving false statements and you are not having knowledge of that falsity. For example, I have sold you this lipstick and I myself was not aware that this lipstick is not imported from Korea. I myself has purchased this lipstick from a wholesaler and the wholesaler told me this only, that this lipstick has been imported from Korea. And if I am selling this lipstick to you saying that this lipstick is from Korea, here I am not committing fraud with you. Reason behind this is, yes, lipstick is not imported. Lipstick has been bought from Chandni Chowk. But I myself did not have knowledge of this. I myself was told about the fact this only, that this lipstick has been imported from Korea. So fraud is considered fraud when you are making some false statements and you yourself have the knowledge of falsity. You yourself know that the statements I'm making are false. Then only it is considered as fraud. Next is the representation must relate to facts. The false representation that you are making, the false statement you are making must be related to the subject matter of the contract. If you are making I already told you, beta, it's page number 42. Page number 42. We are studying fraud, and right now I am on point number 6. Point number 6 of essential elements of fraud. Okay. So, the representation, the statements that I'm making must be related to the subject matter. That must not be related to anything other than subject matter. If I'm selling lipstick, I must tell you, I must give you false statement related to lipstick only. Now, if I'm giving you false statement relating to something else which is not the subject matter of our contract, then that is not considered as fraud. Fraud is only when you are stating something false and that too regarding your subject matter. Okay. Next is active concealment of fact constitute fraud. When you are actively concealing, that is we have discussed in the definition section, that is when you are hiding something, when you are trying to hide something, and that too so cunningly that the other party, if he examines your product completely thoroughly, then also he will not be able to know about this falsity. That is known as active concealment. That is also fraud. Next is the silence amount to fraud. If you are silent regarding something, if you are silent regarding something, is it fraud? Like for example, now I'm selling this lipstick to you, but I did not stated any fact regarding the lipstick. You told me I want to purchase this lipstick. I gave this lipstick to you. Here I am just being silent about any facts. I am not disclosing any facts regarding this lipstick. That means what? I am not creating fraud with you. The general rule says that silence is not fraud. When you're silent, regarding something, when you're silent regarding the statements, then that does not mean that you are creating fraud with the other party. Okay, but this rule has certain exceptions. This rule have certain exception. Now, for example, if I'm selling you something and if I'm not telling you anything about that product, that means that does not mean that I am creating fraud with you. Why? Because if this product is having some faults, then in that case it is not my duty to state the defect of this product. Why? Because if I'll state the defects, then you might not purchase it, and I am a businessman, I am selling my product, then to the defects, if I'll disclose all the defects, then you might not purchase my product. So here, if you are silent, then it is not fraud. But there are certain circumstances where you are silent, then it will amount to fraud. The general rule says that silence is not fraud, but this rule has certain exceptions where if you are silent, then it will be treated as fact. First situation is where there is duty to speak. Where there is duty to speak, like if you are selling some goods which are of hazardous nature, or you are selling some kind of drugs, medicines. Okay, in that it's your duty to state each and every fact regarding that product. Reason behind this is, if you will not consume the medicine properly, then there may be health issues, the person may die also. And if you are selling some products which are having some hazardous nature, which needs to be used properly, if you will not use that product properly, then some damage may occur to the other party. Then in that case, it is the duty of the seller to state each and every fact regarding their product. Now in this case, if he is silent, if he's not telling you the hazardous nature of the product, then he is committing fraud with you. Okay, so firstly, when there is duty to speak, generally where is the duty to speak? When the nature of the goods is hazardous, and when you are dealing with something which is which needs statements, like for example medicine. For small diseases, we do not go to the doctors. If we are having a headache, or if we are having a stomach ache, we might not go to a doctor. We'll go to the chemist, we'll go to the pharmaceutical shop, and we will tell them that I'm having a severe headache, please give me some medicine that will cure this. Okay, so here it is the chemist's duty, it is the duty of pharmacist that he ensure how you will use this medicine and what dose you will intake at what time. Here it is his duty to speak. Okay, so where there is duty to speak and there you are silent, then it will be considered as fraud. And second situation is when silence is equivalent to speech. When silence is equivalent to speech, we'll take the example, then we will understand this point. The example is, for example, I went to purchase a horse. Okay, I went to purchase the horse. I went to the stable owner and I told him that I want a horse which could run at a so and so speed, because I want to make this horse run into a horse race. Okay, so I went to that owner and I told everything. I told her the facts that I want to purchase. I told this owner that if you are silent, then this means what? First of all, I asked him that is this horse is having sound mind. That is, if this horse is able to understand what I will be saying to him. Then here the stable owner did not give any answer to me. Then I told him that if you are silent, then I will consider that this horse is having a sound mind. This horse is having a sound mind. Here, if the stable owner does not speaks, here if the owner of the stable is silent, that means what? This shows that the horse is having sound mind. Why? Because I told him that if you are silent, then I will consider that this horse is having a sound mind. So here, silence is equivalent to speech. That being silent means that you are saying that this horse is having a sound mind. So where there are such situations, then also if you are silent, then it is considered as fraud. Now, if the horse is not of sound mind, you cannot take this excuse that I never told you that horse is having sound mind or not. You haven't told me, but I told you that if you are silent, I'll consider this horse as a sound mind wala horse. But you were silent on that fact. That means what? If now this horse is having unsound mind, then you have committed fraud with me. Okay. So in these two circumstances, silence is considered as fraud. Rest general rule says that silence is not fraud. If you are silent regarding something, that does not mean you are creating fraud with the other person. There is one more situation when you are when there is change of circumstances. When there is change of circumstances, like for example, we have taken the example of Amitabh Bachchan. Now Amitabh Bachchan was about to join my company as a director. Okay, this fact was correct. But suddenly something happened and Amitabh Bachchan refused to come as a director in my company, and I did not disclose this fact to my company members, to my shareholders, to my employees, to my colleagues. I did not expose this thing. So here also, if there is a change of circumstances, you have to speak. It is your duty to speak. If it is your duty to tell everyone that now circumstances are not similar as earlier, now circumstances have been changed, so it is your duty to speak. So here also, if you are silent regarding this matter, then your intention might that you want to commit fraud with the other person. Okay, so generally it is considered that silence is not fraud, but there are certain situations, there are certain circumstances where silence is considered as fraud. Now what are the effects of fraud? If you have made the other person enter into a contract using fraud, then the nature of your contract is voidable. The nature of your contract is voidable. That is, the aggrieved party has the option, either he can accept the contract or he can rescind the contract. But your contract will be voidable only when all the facts were untrue. Okay, but there are certain situations, there are two situations where the contract is considered valid only. Generally, if you have entered into a contract using fraud, the nature of your contract will be voidable. But there are two situations where your contract will be valid. One is when the fraudulent activities you are doing have not induced the other party, have not induced the other party. Like the example we took, Mr. XYZ invested in my company because he wanted to invest. He did not invest it because of my words that Amitabh Bachchan is entering into my company. Okay, so here I have not committed any fraud with Mr. XYZ, and hence the contract become valid only. Okay, here the contract is valid. Why? Because your fraudulent acts, your fraudulent statements have not actually induced the other party to enter into the contract. Okay, so here your contract is not voidable, your contract will be valid only. Second situation is where you have all the means to discover the truth, where you could have come and discovered everything, you could have checked everything, and you could have came to know that there is something wrong, but you did not do anything regarding that. Then also it is considered as valid contract. It is not considered as fraud. Now for example, I wanted to sell this house. The ceiling of this house was not proper, but I did not did a single change in the ceiling. If you had come to my house, if you had seen this house, you might have come to knowledge about this fact. I will not tell you. Why? Because I want to sell this house. Okay, this is my business. I will sell this house to you, and if I state each and every fact, then you might not purchase this house. So it is not my duty to speak here. So you might have come to this house, you might have checked this house. I told you that you can come here, you can check this, you can bring your contractor also, he can also check everything. I have given all the powers to you, but you did not came here. Now if something went wrong here, now if the ceiling falls, it will not be my problem, it will not be my mistake. Why? Because I gave you the benefit here that you can come and check. You did not came here, you did not came out of laziness or whatever the reason was. Here it will be considered as your fault, not mine. So here also I am not committing fraud with you. Why? Because I have given you all the due diligence to discover the truth, and you did not came here and discovered, so it is not my fault. So here also I am not committing fraud with you. So generally, if you enter into a contract using fraud, then firstly your contract will be voidable. But in these two situations which we have discussed, the contract will not be voidable, the contract will be valid. First is when your fraudulent activities have not induced the other party, and second is when the other party has all the due diligence to discover the truth but he did not. Okay, so these are the effects of fraud. Any doubt till here? If you want me to go slow, you can tell me. If you want me to go fast, then also you can tell me. Okay. I'm going slow because I want everybody to understand everything. So that when you'll actually read this chapter, that will only be a revision for you. I hope you'll understand each and every point here. That is my point here. Okay. So that is why I'm going a bit slow. So if you are having any doubts still here, tell me now or we'll move ahead. Okay, next point is misrepresentation. Misrepresentation is just like fraud only. Okay, but the basic difference between misrepresentation and fraud is fraudulent acts are done knowingly. Fraudulent acts are done knowingly. That is, there you have knowledge of falsity. But representation is done innocently. Misrepresentation is done innocently. That is, here if something is wrong, you yourself does not have the knowledge about the falsity. Like we took the example that the lipstick was sold to me also, saying that the lipstick has been imported, and now I sold that lipstick to you saying that this lipstick has been bought from North Korea. Here I'm not making fraud with you. But why? Because the statements I'm telling you are correct only. Okay, are like I myself does not know that actually this lipstick was not brought from North Korea. So here I'm not making fraud, but I am making misrepresentation. Misrepresentation is unintentional false statements. Unintentional false statement. When you do not have knowledge of falsity, when you do not know that things are correct or not, but you speak it because you have heard that from somebody else, then there you are making misrepresentation. Okay, so like fraud, there you are making statements that are not true, and you yourself does not have the knowledge, and you yourself know that statements are not true. That is, you yourself have the knowledge about the falsity. But while misrepresentation, you does not have the knowledge of falsity. Here also you are making false statement, but you think that those statements are true. Like rumors we spread, we do not have the knowledge about that. We also have heard that from somebody else, and we'll say that to somebody else. Here we are making misrepresentation. We are not making fraud with the other person. So what is misrepresentation? Let us discuss. It is given on page number 43, section 18. The definition of misrepresentation says that misrepresentation means and includes the positive assertion in a manner or a warrant by the information of the person, making it of that which is not true, though he believes it to be true. Means that you are making such statements. You are making such statements that are not true, but you believes them to be true. Now, for example, I came to you and I told you that please invest in XYZ company. Why? Because Amitabh Bachchan is joining as a shareholder there. So definitely their share prices will be increasing in future. So here you got influenced by my statements and you entered into a contract. That is, you purchased share of that company. Now actually Amitabh Bachchan was not coming in that company, but I also heard this statement from somebody else. I also heard these statements from somebody else, and I, in good faith, I came to you and I told you that you also invest in this, I am also investing in this company so that we'll earn higher profits in future. So here, this is misrepresentation. That is, I'm making some statements which are not true, but I do not know that these statements are not true. I'm making these statements innocently. So here I'm making misrepresentation with you. Next is causing, however, innocently a party to an agreement to make a mistake to substance or thing. Okay, this is a very lengthy definition. The meaning of this point is sometimes what happens now, you yourself do not know that what will happen in future and you already do something. Like for example, if you want to deal with something which has which have hazardous nature, like for example plastic. If you want to open a plastic company, then there are certain stages that requires permission from different government authorities. Now if you want to open a factory of plastic, then firstly you'll have to take permission from environment control, you'll have to take permission from central government, you'll have to take permission from your state government, you'll have to take permission from the plastic department, etc. Many permissions are required, but the most crucial permission is from the central government. If you obtain permission from central government, then there are 90% chances that each and every other department will give you permission. So now for example, I have opened a company, I am about to open a plastic company. I got permission from central government. I got permission from state government. I got permission from this environment control, pollution control wala department also. So I thought, now I have got enough permission from each and every department. Now I might open this company. So I opened this company in good faith. I opened this company in good faith and I started doing work here. I appointed a person as a director and he is looking after the company. Now what happens at the last stage, the state government refused or the plastic department refused that you cannot open this company because the plastic you are using is not of that quality, it might deplete the ozone layer. So here what happened, I did not had knowledge about this fact. I thought that because the most crucial ones have given me the permission, then this is a small permission only, they give permission to each and everyone, so they'll give permission to me also. So here also I am making misrepresentation with my director, with my colleagues, with my employees. Why? Because it was my duty to take permission from each and every department and then start working. Here I got confused. Here I I made some statements which were not true, but I myself does not had the knowledge that this will happen. So here also I'm making misrepresentation. What are the effects of misrepresentation? If you entered into any contract using misrepresentation, the contract of yours become voidable. Your contract becomes voidable. That is, the aggrieved party has the option, either he can accept the contract or he can reject the contract, rescind the contract. Okay, but it is very important that the acts you are doing, if you are doing misrepresentation with the other party, then that party must have actually induced, must have actually believed your statements and then entered into the contract. If the other party did not believe your statements, then there is no misrepresentation. Whether it is coercion, whether it is undue influence, whether it is misrepresentation, whether it is fraud, if it is either of the above, the main point here is if any four of them have actually induced the other party to enter into the contract, then only your contract is voidable. If the other party, the act of yours has no influence on the other party and he anyhow entered into the contract, then that is not voidable. The contract will be valid only. Any doubt till here? Just yes or no. Okay. Next, if if you made any mistake, while making a contract, then what happens? Now, mistake is erroneous belief. Mistake is erroneous belief. When you are stating some facts which are not true, which you do not know that it is true or not. It is just like misrepresentation, but it is very different from misrepresentation. Why? Because there you are making statements that you yourself do not have the knowledge. But here you are doing mistake. There is galat fehmi, here it is galti. Okay, there is difference between galat fehmi and galti. So mistake is of many types. You can do mistakes of many types. Mistake is divided into two types. One is mistake regarding law and another is mistake of facts. One is mistake regarding law and another is mistake regarding fact, sorry. Firstly, we'll be discussing mistake regarding law. Now, if you does not have the knowledge about law of the country, and you enter into a contract, then it is considered as mistake regarding law. So mistake regarding law is of two types. One is mistake regarding Indian law, that is mistake regarding the law of country you are living in. And second is mistake regarding foreign law. If you have made any mistake regarding Indian law, regarding the law of country in which you are living, then you are not excused. Like for example, I murdered somebody and I took this excuse that I did not know that murdering somebody, killing somebody is offense in India. I have no knowledge of law. I am not literate. I do not know that murdering someone, killing someone is an offense. So please spare me. So here what happens? Here I did a mistake, but I did not know that it is valid in India or not. So here you are not excused. You will be given punishment. So if you did any mistake regarding Indian law, then you are not excused. It is said that ignorantia juris non excusat. The meaning of this line is ignorance of law of land is no excuse. Here your contract is valid only. Here your contract will be valid only. And now a valid action will be taken against me. Why? Because I did a mistake which was a legal mistake, and that too law regarding the country. And it is assumed that each and every citizen living in a country must have a little knowledge about the law of that country. So if you are doing any mistake regarding law of your country, then there you will not be excused. Action will be taken against you. But if you do any mistake, if you make any mistake regarding foreign law, that is the law apart from your country, then you might be excused. There your contract becomes void. Now for example, I exported plastic to South Asia. Okay, so I exported plastic to South Asia and I did not know that plastic is banned there. So I am not supposed to know each and every fact of that country just because I'm exporting my product. Okay, so here my mistake could be excused. They could forgive me for this mistake. Why? Because there I am not creating any mistake, because it is considered that you must not have knowledge about the law of your country. But if you don't know the law of other country, that is excusable. You can be excused. Now action will not be taken against you. Reason behind this is that you do not have knowledge about the law of their company. So the mistake of law is divided into two concepts. One is mistake regarding Indian law. If you had done some mistake regarding the Indian law, then you are not excused. Your contract is valid only and action will be taken against you. But when you have done some mistake regarding foreign law, there you might be excused because the contract is void. Now that contract will not be enforceable and you will not get any punishment for that. Okay, so mistake of law is further divided into two categories. Next is mistake of facts. Mistake of facts is also divided into two categories. One is unilateral mistake and another is bilateral mistake. Unilateral mistake means what? One party is doing some mistake but other know the knowledge. Other has the knowledge about the true picture of the contract. So here what happens? Your contract becomes valid only. Reason behind this is if one party is committing mistake, then other party will correct that party. So because of this fact, here the contract becomes valid only. Here only one party is under a mistake. But when we talk about bilateral mistake, in bilateral mistake, both the parties are committing some common mistake. Both the parties are doing some common mistake. Now, who will correct them? So, if you enter into any contract doing bilateral mistake, that is both the parties are committing some sort of mistake, there your contract becomes void. There your contract becomes void. Now that contract will not be enforceable. Bilateral mistake could be of identity of a person. Bilateral mistake could be of identity of a person. Now what is this kind of mistake? Now for example, the pearls of Hyderabad are very famous. Okay, so I called a pearl company from Rajasthan and told him, the owner of the pearl company, that Mr. XYZ will be coming to take this pearl necklace. You hand over this pearl necklace to Mr. XYZ and afterwards I'll give you the payment. I'll online transfer the payment to you. Now what happens at the same time, Mr. XYZ, who is not that Mr. XYZ that I mentioned, he is some other person, but his name is also Mr. XYZ. Now what happens, he comes to this shop and tells him that I want to purchase a pearl necklace. Now here there is confusion. Now this owner of the company, this pearl owner, thought that this Mr. XYZ is that Mr. XYZ which I was talking about. So what he did, he gave this pearl necklace to that Mr. XYZ and he went. And when he was giving money, he told, no, your money will be given by your by somebody else. You just take the necklace and you will go. Now what here happened, that he gave this pearl to wrong Mr. XYZ. Here it is bilateral mistake. I also thought that he has given to the necklace, he has given this pearl necklace to my Mr. XYZ, but actually he had given this necklace to somebody else, and he also thought that Mr. XYZ is that Mr. XYZ that I was talking about. Okay, so there is very confusion regarding the identity of the person. So here both the parties are under a similar mistake, that is they misunderstood the person that came there. So this is bilateral mistake. Here the contract becomes void. This situation happened in the movie Judwa 2, if you have seen Varun Dhawan's movie. There both the Varun Dhawans are twins, so they look very similar, very alike. So what happens, the right Varun Dhawan ordered a ring and the wrong Varun Dhawan came, and this owner, the jewelry shop owner, thought that this is that Varun Dhawan and he gave this ring to somebody else who was his twin. He was not that person who made the contract. So here this is also a mistake of identity. So unilateral mistake could be related to identity. Unilateral mistake could be related to the nature of the contract. Sometimes you might get confused with the nature of the contract, like bill of exchange and promissory note. Both look quite similar. Now I made a bill of exchange against somebody, but the other person considered that as a promissory note. So here also we are having confusion. Both parties are under a mistake regarding the nature of the contract, that is it bill of exchange or promissory note. Both get confused, and this is also bilateral mistake. Sorry, this is unilateral mistake. Sorry, my mistake. The point I discussed here, bill of exchange and this one promissory note, there that is unilateral mistake, because I to know na, because I have drawn a bill of exchange. You took it as a promissory note, so I will correct you here. So here it is valid only. I just mismatched 2 points. Okay, so this is unilateral mistake. So bilateral mistake is first, it is regarding the identity. Second, it is regarding the subject matter. If there is mistake regarding the subject matter of the goods, like I told you to deliver something and you delivered something else, then it is mistake regarding subject matter. There also the contract becomes void. If you have delivered wrong quantity or wrong quality, then also there is the contract becomes void. So these are certain kinds of bilateral mistakes. Can you hear me? Am I audible and visible? Because I think I'm having network issues right now. Am I audible, visible?